निर्वेदमूलो द्विजशापरूपो यत्र प्रसक्तो भयमाशु धत्ते. This like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the controller of both the transcendental and mundane worlds, has graciously overtaken me in the form of a Brahmana's curse due to my being too much attached to family life. The Lord, in order to save me, has appeared before me in such a way that only out of fear I will detach myself from the world. आस्तां तावत् अनुग्रहः ब्रह्मशापोऽपि ब्रह्म प्रसादादेव जातः इत्याह तस्य गर्ह्य कर्मण एव. What to speak of the Lord's kindness upon me? Even the curse of that Brahmana is nothing but uh, is caused by nothing but the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhayam datte nirvinno bhavati. For a person who is attached to household life, this curse brings one to the point of fear. That means it makes him detached. यतः निर्वेदमूलः निर्वेदः वैराग्यं मूलं प्राप्तिकारणं यस्मिन्. Because he is the cause of such detachment. The curse of the Brahmana is the cause of such detachment. स्वस्य वैराग्य प्राप्यत्वात् तस्य च भयमूलत्वात् तदर्थं द्विजशापं कारितवान् इत्यर्थः. The Supreme Lord can be attained by vairagya, internal detachment and external renunciation. Tasya cha bhayamulatva. And that internal detachment and external renunciation is founded in fear. Fear of continuing material existence and so on. Tadartham. So in order to bring that about, Vijishaham Karitavan, the Supreme Lord has brought about this curse of the Brahmana. Tatrapi idam ascharya. This is such a great wonder. भगवदनुग्रहशीलानां वंशे गणनीयस्य अपि मम अभीक्ष्णं गृहेषु व्यासक्तचित्तस्य तत्रापि अखस्य तादृश ब्राह्मण अपराध कर्तुः. I am counted as being in a dynasty of those who are habituated to receiving the kindness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And even though my mind is completely absorbed in household affairs at all points in time, and on top of it, I am a sinful person. I have committed an offense towards the Brahmana community. Still, Paravareshastu Nunam Bhagavad Anagrihita Vamshajoyam Ityamrishya Swayam Dvijashaparupastad Apadesha San. Still, that Supreme Lord of the superior and inferior entities, he considered this person has taken birth in a family which has been blessed by him. And therefore, on the pretext of the curse of a Brahmana, he has himself become the support of detachment from everything other than him. He has prasaktah bhayam. See the original. Yatra prasakto bhayam ashudatte. According to the rules of Sanskrit grammar, this can also be yatra prasaktah abhayam ashudatte. He has taken that. यत्र परावरेशे प्रसक्त शीघ्रमेव भयं तच्चरणारविंद प्राप्त्या भय अभावं दत्ते. by taking shelter, by becoming attached to that Supreme Lord, very quickly one comes to the point of abhaya. By attaining his lotus feet, one attains the absence of fear. There are also similar statements in the 10th canto. Ataha, therefore, tasmad bhavatam api agama, your sudden appearance here, tat prerana ya eva jatam, is come about by his inspiration. He has inspired you. Iti bhava. This is the implication. Vakshyate cha Sri Shukadevam Palakshya. And he will tell this to Sri Shukadeva Goswami also in two verses. The abominable activity of sin that he is talking about was his insult of the Brahmana by placing a snake around his neck. But the Supreme Lord, in order to propagate his glory as being the purifier of the fallen, he has come close to me in the form of this curse of this twice born. Bhavadvidham mahat samagamad anumiyate. I'm able to conjecture this by the assembly of great souls like all of you. Yatra Bhagavan ayati tatraiva tattvaha swata eva ayanti iti arthaha. The devotees of the Supreme Lord, they naturally come to that place where the Supreme Lord himself comes. He has also taken abhayam. That's the reading. Baladev Vidyabhushan has also taken abhayam. Maharaj Parikshit also, although born in a family of great devotees of Pandavas, and although securely trained in transcendental attachment for the association of the Lord, still found the allurement of mundane family life so strong that he had to be detached by a plan of the Lord. Such direct action is taken by the Lord in the case of a special devotee whom the Lord wants to accomplish a particular mission. Maharaj Parikshit could understand this by the presence of the topmost transcendentalist in the universe. The Lord resides with his devotees, and therefore the presence of the great saints indicated the presence of the Lord. The king therefore welcomed the presence of the great rishis as a mark of favor of the Lord. 15. Tammopayatam pratiyant vipra ganga cha devi dhritachittameshe द्विजोपसृष्टः कुहकस्तक्षको वा दशत्पलं गायत Vishnu-gatha. O Brahmanas, just accept me as a completely surrendered soul and let Mother Ganges, the representative of the Lord, also accept me in that way, for I have already taken the lotus feet of the Lord into my heart. Let the snake bird or whatever magical thing the Brahmana created bite me at once. I only desire that you all continue singing the deeds of Lord Vishnu. Taan prarthayate, now he prays to these sages in two verses, 15 and 16. Va shabdah pratikriya anadare, or whatever magical thing the Brahmana created, bite me at once. That indicates that even if this curse is not meant to be neutralized, all right, no problem. Upaktaha, kapata rupaha. The idea is let Akshaka come in any uh, disguised form and come and bite me. I'm simply not bothered. As soon as one is given up completely unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, he is not at all afraid of them. Atmosphere created by the presence of great devotees of the Lord on the bank of the Ganges and Maharaj Parikshit's complete acceptance on the Lord's lotus feet were sufficient guarantee to the king for going back to Godhead. He thus became absolutely free from all fear of death. 16. पुनश्च भूयाद भगवत्यनन्ते रतिः प्रसङ्गश्च तदाश्रयेषु महत्सु याम याम उपयामि सृष्टिं मैत्र्यस्य सर्वत्र नमोद्विजेभ्यः. Again, offering obeisances unto all you Brahmanas. I pray that if I should again take my birth in the material world, I will have complete attachment to the unlimited Lord Krishna, association with his devotees, and friendly relations with all living beings. Point 3. Avishama Drishti. Friendly relations with all living beings means may have a vision of impartiality. Brahmaneshu to adara vishesha astu. But I must have special respect for the Brahmanas. Therefore, he says, offering obeisances unto all you Brahmanas. Tad bhakteshu prakrishtah sangha. I wish I have proper association with his devotees. Good association. Sarvajiveshu maitri. I should have friendly relations with everyone, all living beings. 3 desires. Vanshitatraya. Let these 3 desires be fulfilled. He also felt repentance out of respect for the Brahmanas. And therefore, there is the fourth desire. May I always offer obeisance unto the Brahmanas. That the devotee of the Lord is the only perfect living being is explained herein by Maharaj Parikshit. A devotee of the Lord is no one's enemy, although there may be many enemies of a devotee. A devotee of the Lord is no one's enemy means that devotee of the Lord does not wish to harm anyone. He does not wish that anyone experience shoka, moha, bhaya. Although there may be many enemies of a devotee, this means, but there may be many people who wish that such a devotee experience shoka or moha or bhaya. A devotee of the Lord does not like to associate with non-devotees, although he has no enmity with them. He desires association with the devotees of the Lord. This is perfectly natural because birds of the same feather mix together. And the most important function of a devotee is to have complete attachment for Lord Sri Krishna, the father of all living beings. This is the most important. Out of these desires, these 3 desires, the desire to have complete attachment for Lord Sri Krishna, the father of all living beings, is the most important. So that is the first one. So even though we keep talking about Ishvare Tadadineshu, Balisheshu, Dushatsu Cha, they go in that order of priority also. First of all, Ishvare Prema. Then Tadadineshu, Maitri. Ishvare Tadadineshu, Balisheshu. Then Balisheshu, Kripa. And Dushatsu Cha. For them, Upeksha. But it goes in that order. First of all, there should be affection for the Lord. I thought there was a question somewhere. Can we also pray like this? It seems in this one life only, it's not possible to achieve the Lord. It may seem like that, but if we are fully surrendered, then Krishna will make it possible. This is a nice prayer. Very nice prayer. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also teaches. Mama Janmani Janmani Ishware Bhavata Hetu Gitvai. As a good son of the father behaves in a friendly way with all his other brothers, so also the devotee of the Lord, being a good son of the Supreme Father, Lord Krishna, sees all other living beings in relation with the Supreme Father. He tries to bring back the upstart sons of the Father to a saner stage, get them to accept the Supreme, what is this? To accept the Supreme Fatherhood of God. Maharaj Parikshit was certainly going back to Godhead, but even if he were not to go back, he prayed for a pattern of life, which is the most perfect way in the material world. So this is in case he is thinking that because he has offended the Brahmanas, there's no hope of him attaining Vaikuntha in this life. So the idea is, even if Krishna does not uh, allow me to come into the Vaikuntha universe to serve him, still I would like to serve him, but I want a pattern of life that is most perfect for my practice, for my engagement in service to the Lord. A pure devotee does not desire the company of a personality as great as Brahma, but he prefers the association of a petty living being, provided he is a devotee of the Lord. 17. Hitisma Raja Dhyavasaya Yukta Prachina Muleshu Usheshu Dhira Udang Mukho Dakshina Kula Aste Samudra Patnyas Vasutanyasta Bhara. In perfect self-control, Maharaj Parikshit sat down on a seat of straw placed on the southern bank of the Ganges, with the straw roots pointing east, and he himself faced the north. Just previously, he had given charge of his kingdom over to his son. Gangayam udaka eva kinchit dakshina bhage prasade tahi Mahabharate. So he placed himself on the southern bank of the Ganges, means in the southern portion of his palace, the Ganges water was flowing. It's noted in Mahabharata. He gave charge of his kingdom over to his son, Janame Jaya. The river Ganges is celebrated as the wife of the sea. A seat of Kusha straw is considered to be sanctified if the straw is taken out of the earth complete with the roots, and pointing the roots towards the east is considered to be auspicious. Facing the north is still more favorable for attaining spiritual success. Maharaj Parikshit handed over the charge of administration to his son before leaving home. He was thus fully equipped for all favorable conditions. What is fully surrendering? Fully surrendering means one gives up all other activities other than to please the Lord, and one gives up all desires other than to please the Lord. In एवं च तस्मिन् नरदेव देवे प्रायोपविष्टे दिविदेव संघाः प्रशस्य भूमौ व्यकिरन् प्रसूनैर्मुदा मुहुर्दुन्दु भयश्च नेदुः. Thus the king, Maharaj Parikshit, sat to fast until death. All the demigods of the higher planets praised the king's actions, and in pleasure continually scattered flowers over the earth and beat celestial drums. Even up to the time of Maharaj Parikshit, there were interplanetary communications, and the news of Maharaj Parikshit's fasting unto death to attain salvation reached the higher planets in the sky where the intelligent demigods live. The demigods are more luxurious than human beings, but all of them are obedient to the ordinance of the Supreme Lord. There is no one in the heavenly planets who is an atheist or non-believer. Thus, any devotee of the Lord on the surface of the earth is always praised by them. And in the case of Maharaj Parikshit, they were greatly delighted and thus gave tokens of honor by scattering flowers over the earth and by beating celestial drums. The demigods take pleasure in seeing someone go back to Godhead. They are always pleased with the devotee of the Lord, so much so that by their Adhi-daivik powers, by their celestial powers, they help the devotee in all respects. And by their actions, the Lord is pleased with them. There is an invisible chain of complete cooperation between the Lord, the demigods, and the devotee of the Lord on earth. Achyutanam Prabhu.
Right, Prabhu. Prabhuji, we hear sometimes that there have been cases when demigods obstruct one doing devotional service. Is it all like, was it true or have I heard it wrong? Like they send allurement on the path, something like this.
This is a pure devotee. Once we take to pure devotion service to Krishna, then they become very happy. Before that, they may test one. They may send various allurements to test whether we are pure or not. But once we are confirmed, we pass the exam, then they are very happy. 19. महर्षयो वै समुपागता ये प्रशस्य साध्वित्यनुमोदमानाः ऊचुः प्रजानुग्रहशीलसारा यदुत्तमश्लोकगुणाभिरूपम्. All the great sages who were assembled there also praised the decision of Maharaj Parikshit, and they expressed their approval by saying, very good. Naturally, the sages are inclined to do good to common men, for they have all the qualitative powers of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they were very much pleased to see Maharaj Parikshit, a devotee of the Lord, and they spoke as follows. These sages, they had the nature of being kind to all the prajas, all the citizens. They had the strength to also exhibit that kindness. The king was very beautiful with these auspicious qualities of Lord Sri Krishna, who sung in selected verses. So they were very kind to him. They approved of the Devas' worship of the king. They appreciated it. The natural beauty of a living being is enhanced by rising up to the platform of devotional service. Maharaj Parikshit was absorbed in attachment for Lord Krishna. Seeing this, the great sages assembled were very pleased, and they expressed their approval by saying, very good. Such sages are naturally inclined to do good to the common man. And when they see a personality like Maharaj Parikshit advance in devotional service, their pleasure knows no bounds, and they offer all blessings in their power. The devotional service of the Lord is so auspicious that all demigods, all sages, and the Lord himself become pleased with the devotee, and therefore the devotee finds everything auspicious. All inauspicious matters are removed from the path of a progressive devotee. Meeting all the great sages at the time of death was certainly auspicious for Maharaj Parikshit, and thus he was blessed by the so-called curse of a Brahmana's boy. How do they test? How do the devas test? They offer various They make arrangements for the practicing transcendentalists to become allured by sense objects. They create such situations. Text 20. Nava idam rajarshi varya chitram bhavatsu krishnam samanuvrateshu ye dhyasanam raja kirita jushtam sadyo japur bhagavat parshvakama. The sages said, O chief of the saintly kings, since you are one of the kings of the Pandu dynasty, who are all strictly in the line of Lord Shri Krishna, it is not at all astonishing that you have given up your throne, which is decorated with the helmets of many kings, to achieve eternal association with the personality of Godhead. So, in the dynasty of Pandu, Yudhishthira and others, they immediately gave up. They immediately gave up their exalted throne, which was decorated with the helmets of different kings, because they were desirous of achieving the association of the Supreme Personality of God. Bhagavad Parshvakama ityatra tat samipya kamana api vyakheya. So they were desirous of being close to the Supreme Lord. It is out of their extreme anxiety due to their special love for the Lord. So even though the Supreme Lord, when one has extreme affection for the Lord manifests himself in the heart. But being dissatisfied with that, they actually wanted to be with the Supreme Lord, and this material existence was considered by them to be an obstacle. It's like children who only find happiness in their affection for their mother and father when they are kept very far away, like that. This is also indicated in 7th canto statement by Sri Prahlad Maharaj. When will you call me to yourself? You are the very shelter of liberation. That's a prayer like 7.9.16. अतएव तत्र स्थितानां सर्वश्रोत्रीणामपि श्रीकृष्णे एव तात्पर्यम् आयाति. So from this statement it is understood that all those who had come to hear from Shukadev, all of them were interested in hearing about Shri Krishna. Foolish politicians who hold political administrative posts think that the temporary posts they occupy are the highest material gain of life, and therefore they stick to those posts even up to the last moment of life, without knowing that achievement of liberation as one of the associates of the Lord in his eternal abode is the highest gain of life. The human life is meant for achieving this end. And the Lord has assured us in the Bhagavad Gita many times that going back to God, that his eternal abode is the highest achievement. Prahlad Maharaj, while praying to Lord Nrsimha, said, "Oh my Lord, I'm very much afraid of the materialistic way of life. And I'm not the least afraid of your present ghastly, ferocious feature as Nrsimhadev. This materialistic way of life is something like a grinding stone, and I'm being crushed by it. I've fallen into this horrible whirlpool of the tossing waves of life. And thus, my Lord, I pray at your lotus feet to call me back to your eternal abode as one of your servitors. This is the summit of liberation from this materialistic way of life. I have very bitter experience of the materialistic way of life. In whichever species of life I have taken birth compelled by the force of my own activities, I have very painfully experienced two things, namely separation from my beloved and meeting with what is not wanted. And to counteract them, the remedies which I undertook were more dangerous than the miseries themselves. So I drifted from one point to another, birth after birth. And therefore I pray to you to give me shelter at your lotus feet. This is that 7.9.16 and 17. The Pandava kings, who were more than many saints of the world, knew the bitter results of the materialistic way of life. They were never captivated by the glare of the imperial throne they occupied, and they sought always the opportunity of being called by the Lord to associate with him eternally. Maharaj Parikshit was the worthy grandson of Maharaj Yudhishthir. Maharaj Yudhishthir gave up the imperial throne to his grandson. And similarly, Maharaj Parikshit, the grandson of Maharaj Yudhishthir, gave up the imperial throne to his son Janamejaya. That is the way of all the kings in the dynasty because they are all strictly in the line of Lord Krishna. Thus, the devotees of the Lord are never enchanted by the glare of materialistic life, and they live impartially, unattached to the objects of the false, illusory, materialistic way of life. 21. Sarve vayam tavadihasmahetha Kalevaram yavad dasau vidhaya Lokam param virajaskam vishokam yasyatyayam bhagavata pradhana. We shall all wait here until the foremost devotee of the Lord, Maharaj Parikshit, returns to the supreme abode, which is completely free from all mundane contamination and all kinds of lamentation. Chitanambu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, this materialistic life is very bitter. Can this be explained or it has to be realized individually only?
It has to be realized. It has to be realized doesn't mean that we have to become materialistic and experience it. Intelligent people understand simply by observation. The unintelligent have to understand through personal experience. Through observation, deliberation, one understand.
And if I want to explain it to someone, I can do that only when I have realized it.
One has to come to the point of the more we advance only, the more we will be able to convince others. That is people's perpetual complaint about us now. We're all talking big dialogues without realization. But when we prove that we are able to take shelter of Krishna, despite a lot of bona fide opportunities to engage in substandard forms of devotional service, mixed devotional service, then people will become convinced. So it takes many years or decades to become convinced. Okay.
Thank you, bro.
Parasparam sammantriyante. So they consult this text 21 is a statement in which they are talking to each other, they're counseling each other, they're consulting each other. Rajaskam nirmayam. Completely free from all mundane contamination means completely free from maya in every manner. Here, the word lokaha comes there. Lokam param virajaskam vishokam. So Srila Jiva Goswami notes, here the word loka does not mean anything other than the abode of the Lord, actually, because in text 20 it was already pointed out that the Pandavas, they were desirous of attaining proximity to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in this very verse also, it is clearly stated, Bhagavata Pradhana, that Parikshit Maharaj is the foremost of the devotees of Bhagavan. तस्माद् अन्ते चेत् ब्रह्म कैवल्यं मन्यते तथापि क्रम भगवत् प्राप्ति रीत्या तदनन्तरं भगवत् प्राप्तिस्तु अवश्यं मन्येत एव यथा अजामिलस्य दर्शितम्. Now, if one were to say that he attained the supreme status which was free from all kinds of lamentation and mundane contamination, and that status is Brahma Kaivalya, impersonal mystic liberation. Even then, in accordance with the method of sequential attainment of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then you'll have to say he attained first of all impersonal liberation, then he attained the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just as it was with Ajamila. राज्ञः अध्यवसायं श्रुत्वा स्वेषामपि अध्यवसायं राज्ञं श्रावयन्तः परस्परं मन्त्रयन्ते. So they heard about the king's decision. Now they are talking to themselves about their own decision in such a manner that the king can hear it also. Their decision nourishes the king's decision. Beyond the limitation of the material creation, which is compared to a cloud in the sky, there is the Paravyama, or the spiritual sky, full of planets called Vaikunthas. Such Vaikuntha planets are also differently known as the Purushottama Loka, Achyuta Loka, Trivikrama Loka, Rishikesha Loka, Keshava Loka, Aniruddha Loka, Madhava Loka, Pradyumna Loka, Sankarshana Loka, Sridhara Loka, Vasudeva Loka, Ayodhya Loka, Dwaraka Loka, and many other millions of spiritual lokas, wherein the personality of God predominates. All the living entities there are liberated souls with spiritual bodies as good as the body of the Lord. There is no material contamination. Everything there is spiritual, and therefore there is nothing objectively lamentable. They are full of transcendental bliss and are without birth, death, old age, and disease. And amongst all the above mentioned Vaikuntha lokas, there is one supreme loka called Goloka Vrindavan, which is the abode of the Lord Sri Krishna and his specific associates. Maharaj Parikshit was destined to achieve this particular loka. And the great rishis assembled there could foresee this. All of them consulted among themselves about the great departure of the great king, and they wanted to see him up to the last moment because they would no more be able to see such a great devotee of the Lord. When a great devotee of the Lord passes away, there's nothing to be lamented because the devotee is destined to enter into the kingdom of God. But the sorry plight is that such great devotees leave our sight, and therefore there is every reason to be sorry. As the Lord is rarely to be seen by our present eyes, so also are the great devotees. The great rishis, therefore, correctly decided to remain on the spot till the last moment. To Ashrutya tadrishi gana vachah parikshit samam madhuchyat gurucham vyalikam abhashatainan abhivandya yuktan shushrusamanas charitani Vishnu. All that was spoken by the great sages was very sweet to hear, full of meaning, and appropriately presented as perfectly true. So after hearing them, Maharaj Parikshit, desiring to hear the activities of Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of God, had congratulated the great sages. So he heard the four statements of the sages. The sages had spoken four verses. Is it like that? Oh, they had made 4 points. Vayam where is that? Asmahe. Here. All of us will stay here. So this is a statement of impartiality. Bhagavata Pradhana. This king is the foremost of the devotees. It's a statement like nectar. Virajaskam lokam. Virajaskam lokam. You will attain the abode completely free from mundane contamination. That is a statement of deep purport. Avyalikam satyam. Lokam yasyati. Lokam yasyati. You will attain that abode. That's a statement of truthfulness. A truthful statement. The previous two verses, Virajaskam lokam, should be interpreted to mean Bhagavan lokam, the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because in there are two verses prior to that where it was noted that the Pandavas, they were desirous of attaining the proximity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Itri समागता सर्वत एव सर्वे वेदा यथा मूर्ति धरास्ते पृष्ठे नेहाथ नामुत्र च कश्चनार्थ Vrite paranugrahamatmaशीlam. The king said, O great sages, you have all very kindly assembled here, having come from all parts of the universe. You are all as good as the supreme knowledge personified, who resides in the planet above the three worlds, Satyaloka. Consequently, you are naturally inclined to do good to others, and but for this, you have no interest either in this life or in the next. All of you are equal to the personified Vedas who reside in Satyaloka, which is higher than the three worlds. Jnanatishayamukva kripalatamah. Having pointed out that they have abundant spiritual knowledge, understanding, and realization, he then points out that they are also filled with compassion. Bhavatam prayojanam paranugrahanam vina nasti. There's no other reason for you to come here other than compassion upon others. But for you, you have no interest either in this life or in the next. You don't have any desire for any material pleasure. Pleasure to be attained in this life, pleasure to be attained in the next life. That is your very nature. 6 kinds of opulences, namely wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation, are all originally the different attributes pertaining to the absolute personality of Godhead. The living beings who are part and parcel entities of the Supreme Being have all these attributes partially, up to the full strength of 78%. In the material world, these attributes up to some 78% of the Lord's attributes are covered by the material energy as the sun is covered by a cloud. The covered strength of the sun is very dim compared to the original glare, and similarly, the original color of the living beings with such attributes becomes almost extinct. There are 3 planetary systems, namely the lower worlds, the intermediate worlds, and the upper worlds. The human beings on earth are situated at the beginning of the intermediate worlds, but living beings like Brahma and his contemporaries live in the upper worlds, of which the topmost is Satyaloka. In Satyaloka, the inhabitants are fully cognizant of Vedic wisdom, and thus the mystic cloud of material energy is cleared. Therefore, they are known as the Vedas personified. Such persons, being fully aware of knowledge, both mundane and transcendental, have no interest in either the mundane or transcendental worlds. They are practically desireless devotees. In the mundane world, they have nothing to achieve, and in the transcendental world, they're full in themselves. Then why did they come to the mundane world? By the order of the Lord, they descend to different planets as messiahs to deliver the fallen souls. On the earth, they come down and do good to the people of the world in different circumstances under different climatic influences. They have nothing to do in this world save and except reclaim the fallen souls rotting in material existence, deluded by material energy. Twenty-four. ततश्च वः पृच्छमिमं विपृच्छे विश्रभ्य विप्रा इति कृत्य तायां सर्वात्मनां म्रियमाणैश्च कृत्यं शुद्धं च तत्र मृषताभियुक्ताः. O trustworthy Brahmanas, I now ask you about my immediate duty. Please, after proper deliberation, tell me of the unalloyed duty of everyone in all circumstances, and specifically of those who are just about to die. Vishrabhya, Vishwasam Kritva. I have faith in you, and therefore I have this question to pose to you. Evam kartavyam iti asya bhava iti krityata tasmin vishaye regarding duties. Sarvatmana sarvavasthasu yat krityam. Tell me about the duty that is meant to be carried out under all circumstances. Visheshataha cha niyamanaihi tacha shuddham papa samparka rahitam amrishata vicharayata. Specifically, tell me about the duties that are meant to be carried out by those who are about to die. And he is talking about pure duties, meaning duties which have no connection with sins. Please deliberate on this. Vishrabhya iti Krishnakri sevameva ete upadekshyanti iti abhiprayam. He was confident because he considered them trustworthy. Therefore, he asked him this question because he was of the opinion that they are going to instruct him to engage in devotion service to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Shuddham. Please tell me about the unalloyed duty, perfectly correct duty. Iti khanishta madhyama sadhana mishrata rahitam sarvottamam ityartha. So they are not going to tell me about the sort of devotion service engaged by Kanishta devotees or Madhyama devotees. They are going to talk to me about pure devotion service, first class devotion service. First class sadhana is service to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. That was his hidden intention behind asking this question. Imam vo yushmakam api nagraham viprachhe. I also seek all of your kindness upon me. Kimakara tachikirshitavya iti prichhami. And this is the form of my question. What should one desire to do? Prichyam prashtum arham tatreva adhyavasayartham iti bhava. Because he wants to become resolute and fixed in doing that which is meant to be the duty for everyone, and specifically the duty of all those who are about to die. Shrabhya tatreva me vishwaso bhavi iti janita iti bhava. Bhavi iti janita iti bhava. He wanted to he wanted them to trust that they could give instructions, proper instruction. Iti kritya evam kartavyaha. Tapo yoga jnanadayas tesham bhava iti krityata. Tasyam satyam riyamane janais tapo yogadinam evam kartavyatve sati sarvatmanam amayatra shuddham krityam tatra amrishata vicharayata. There are different types of duties. There is tapas, there is yoga, there is the discipline of jnana, and so on. All of these are duties. But that duty which is pure and which I am meant to execute in every manner, please deliberate about them. Sarvaika vakya taya nishchitya kartum agyapayata iti bhavaha. The implication is all of you come to a consensus and please instruct me in that manner. Shuddham. Tell me of the unalloyed devotee means the duty which is devoid of violence. For instance, animal sacrifices involves violence, like that. Okay, there's a question here. So if it takes years for conviction for oneself, then why this initiation process is made very easy? And also asking them for preaching. The initiation process is the starting point. Once you develop absolute faith in surrender to Lord Krishna, then you are fit to be initiated. One should not go on delaying also. So That's a process. First step is Adav Guru Parashram. Second step is Atha Diksha Shikshanam. Then there is Sadharma Vriksha. Like that, steps. There are 20 steps actually. And also asking them for preaching. What does that mean? Why are we very easily telling people to preach? But we are not telling people to preach their realization. We are telling them to preach what is presented by Prabhupada. We are actually telling everyone to preach Prabhupada's realization. So we are not really pracharakas, we are upapracharakas. We are just assistant preachers. We are not. If you want to preach and save the world yourself, then Janma Sarthaka Kori Koro Paravapaka. First of all, you attain Krishna Prema, then afterwards you deliver. But if you want to assist in the preaching of the perfect pure devotee, that is different. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur distinguish between these two. So even though Prabhupada keeps on saying thousands of times, preaching is the essence, we must preach and pray. What he actually means is, you guys just do what I'm saying, that's all. That is what is called preaching in Prabhupada's language. That is what we are supposed to do. But Prabhupada also wants us to progress and come to the point of being fully perfect. Otherwise, the mission is not complete. So we also have to make spiritual progress. So when we make spiritual progress, we also come to the point where we become fully realized. So when you become fully realized, then you say the same thing that Prabhupada has said naturally. Prior to that, we just repeat. We are just like some kind of, it's like there are monitors in classrooms. When the teacher doesn't come, then the teacher says, okay, conduct this revision. So the revision is based on whatever the teacher has taught. So the monitor is simply supposed to teach that to his own co-students. Now, if he suddenly starts saying, no, but I'm a teacher, you should all respect me as a teacher. I come into the classroom, all of you should stand up. Then they'll start throwing stones at him. Nonsense fellow, you're just like me. You're not mature and like the teacher. You don't know. Anyway, so many ways. So we are sadhakas who are trying to help others. There are different ways by which Krishna's mercy is being distributed by us. But we should remember that we are sadhakas. We are not, we are engaged in sadhana. Those engaged in bhava bhakti, they can be accepted as full-fledged authority. Almost full-fledged authority. Then the bhava bhaktas, those engaged in bhava bhakti, they will surrender to those who are in prema bhakti. That way, step by step. We should do what is appropriate for us. What are the actual things one should be trained before one takes initiation? The first 3 verses of Upadeshamrita. This is the subject matter that is corresponding to Shraddha. This is preliminary. This is preliminary. One should understand the process of surrender to Krishna, the 6 items of surrender. One should know about the first 20 items of the 64 items of sadhana bhakti. All these things. It'll be nice if before initiation, all of these things, there are classes on all of these things. Just before initiation. Right now, at least we have classes on 10 offenses, but it could be expanded. There are devotees who complain that we are not trained about Sharanagati. We are not trained about these things. So at least these things can be introduced. ISKCON gives us the facility to do all these things. So you all, when you have to recommend someone for initiation, and you have actually given recommendation for initiation, before your candidates come and sit for initiation, you will conduct all these classes. It will be very good for everyone, actually. In this verse, the king has placed 2 questions before the learned sages. The first question is, what is the duty of everyone in all circumstances? And the second question is, what is the specific duty of one who is to die very shortly? Out of the 2, the question relating to the dying man is most important because everyone is a dying man, either very shortly or after 100 years. The duration of life is immaterial, but the duty of a dying man is very important. Maharaj Parikshit placed these 2 questions before Shukadeva Goswami also on his arrival. And practically the whole of the Srimad Bhagavatam from the beginning of the second canto up to the end of the 12th canto deals with these two questions. The conclusion arrived at thereof is that devotional service of the Lord Sri Krishna, as it is confirmed by the Lord himself, in the last phases of the Bhagavad Gita, is the last word in relation to everyone's permanent duty in life. So the point is, at some point we have to accept Kevala Bhakti. We have to accept the Kevala version of Uttama Bhakti. Some point we have to come to that. That is the ultimate phase. Prior to that, we may engage in Pradhanibhuta Bhakti, a Pradhanibhuta version of Uttama Bhakti. Uttama Bhakti is of two types, of the Kevala type or of the Pradhanibhuta type. So, we might engage in Pradhanibhuta version of Kevala Bhakti. But ultimately, we have to come to the Kevala version of Uttama Bhakti. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur insisted that all those who were living in his monastery, that means the brahmacharis, the separated vanaprasthas, the sannyasis, who were following him, all of them had to engage in nothing but the 64 items of sadhana bhakti. He said this is only duty of the jivatma, and we should just be busy with that. We should not be bothered about other teachings of the lower teachings of the Vedic scriptures, teachings on yoga, teachings on jnana, teachings on karma. That is all meant for lower audiences. Maharaj Parikshit was already aware of this fact, but he wanted the great sages assembled there to unanimously give their verdict on his conviction, so that he might be able to go on with his confirmed duty without controversy among the sages. He has especially mentioned the word Shuddha, or perfectly correct. For transcendental realization or self-realization, many processes are recommended by various classes of philosophers. Some of these methods are first class and some of them are second or third class. The first class method demands that one gives up all other methods and surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord, and thus be saved from all sins and their reactions. 25. Tatra bhavad bhagavan vyasaputro yadrichaya yam atamano napeksha alakshyalingo nijalabhatushto pratasya balai avadhuta veshaha. At that moment, there appeared the powerful son of Vyasadevas, who traveled over the earth disinterested, satisfied with his own achievement. He did not manifest any symptoms of belonging to any social order or status of life. He was surrounded by women and children and was dressed as if others had neglected him. Yes.
Prabhu, this inquiring the sages with full trust. So, like in India, mostly people are cheated by these bogus gurus. And cases they trust the wrong person, and then they inquire from the wrong person, and then he gives some misdirected guidance. So, is it always the fault of the person who gets cheated that he is getting cheated, or can we do something about it? Like, so that he trusts the right person and he inquires
He
from
has
the
to
right
use
person?
his intelligence. He has to use his intelligence. That's not only in the beginning, because at all stages we require guidance as we progress. So continuously we have to use our intelligence. We have to be respectful to those who appear to be worthy of respect. But at the same time, we have to use our intelligence. One needs to have some basic preliminary knowledge in order to be able to verify. Like Prabhupada says, if you want to buy some fruit and you go to the shop of a cloth seller, then obviously he's going to cheat you. So you have to know that a fruit is different from a cloth. That much of basic sense is required.
But we see that even that is missing. So
If
can we
that
do
is missing,
something
then
about?
they're very good candidates for being victimized. Then whom we should blame?
Like, can we do something about it? How to make us intelligent and then others also intelligent, so that this basic idea
Yeah,
is there.
they should read the books. They should read the scriptures. Scripture is the original authority, so we should read the scriptures. Those who need to be cheated will be cheated. अत्र तेषु यागयोग तपोदानादिभिर्विवदमानेषु सत्सु यदृच्छया गां पर्यटन व्यासपुत्रस्तत्राभवत् प्राप्तः. So at that time, because the king asked a question like this, the great saintly authorities, they were debating among themselves about what should be that process that Parikshit should do. So somebody said yaga, or sacrifice, somebody said yoga, the process of yoga. And some talked about tapas, austerity, some spoke about dana, charity, and so on. At that time, by himself, the son of Vyasadeva was wandering around. He appeared. Na lakshyam. He did not manifest any symptoms of belonging to any social order or status of life. Aikamatya abhavena sarveshu munishu tadeva. So when these sages did not have a consensus, swaswa manasa shri shukavgana ichamaneshu netraischa tad vartman nirikshamaneshu saksu. And all these sages, in their minds, they were waiting for Sri Shukadev to arrive. And with their eyes, they kept on looking for the direction through which Shukadev Goswami would arrive. At that time, the son of Vyasadeva arrived. Kim asya upadeshyam. What should be taught, instructed to this king? Iti alabdha aikamatye. So when the sages did not arrive at a consensus, sarvasaragya shukaha ched agachet tadenam upadeshet. अस्माकं चित्त श्रवणेन प्राणन्दस्य इति तत् आगतिम अपेक्षमाणे मुनि समाजे व्यासपुत्रो भव. So the community of sages at the time, they were thinking, Shukadev Goswami knows the essence of all the Vedic teachings. If he were to come, then he would instruct King Parikshit, and all of us would become supremely blissful by hearing Shukadev Goswami. So they were waiting for Shukadev Goswami to come. Notice that they were not jealous of Shukadev Goswami, thinking that now why he should give Shiksha when we are there. Nothing like that. As we genuinely progress in spiritual life, we will become more and more humble. We will not get bewildered by disciples. We will not get bewildered by Dhanam, Janam, or exquisite scholarship, Sundarim Kavitam, and so on. जन्मारभ्य श्री कृष्णैकनिष्ठः अधुना त्यक्तराज्यः गृहीतप्रायः परीक्षित तत्कथा श्रवण अतियोग्यः अस्ति तं मदधीतं श्री कृष्ण चरितामृता. What is this? महापुराणं श्रावयिष्यामि इति निश्चित्य स्वयं आगमत् इत्यर्थः. So anyway, Shukadeva Goswami's way of thinking was this. From his very birth, this king was fixed in Lord Shri Krishna. Now he has given up his kingdom. He has accepted the vow of fasting till death. So therefore, Parikshit is most fit. He is very eligible to hear topics of Lord Krishna. So the topics of Lord Krishna, which I have learnt in the form of the great Purana, Must be Bhagavata Mahapurana, the typing mistake, which I have learned. That I will teach him. Ascertaining this, the sage arrived. Apekshaha, Nispraha, he had no hankerings. Matantarani cha munyantranam tukshatvad. Anichat yataha. Nijasya swaprabhu krishnasya labhena sadaiva sakshatkarena tushtaha. He considered the opinions of these other sages to be most insignificant and petty. And he was self-satisfied because he was directly experiencing Lord Shri Krishna, who was his own master, his own property. The word Bhagavan, what is the word Bhagavan? Bhagavan, Vyasaputra, Bhagavan. Also, the word Bhagavan is sometimes used in relation with some of the great devotees of the Lord, like Shukadeva Goswami. Such liberated souls are disinterested in the affairs of this material world because they are self-satisfied by the great achievements of devotion service. As explained before, Shukadeva Goswami never accepted any formal spiritual master, nor did he undergo any formal reformatory performances. His father Vyasadeva was his natural spiritual master because Shukadeva Goswami heard Srimad Bhagavatam from him. After this, he became completely self-satisfied. Thus, he was not dependent on any formal process. The formal processes are necessary for those who are expected to reach the stage of complete liberation. But Sri Shukadeva Goswami was already in that status by the grace of his father. As a young boy, he was expected to be properly dressed, but he went about naked and was uninterested in social customs. He was neglected by the general populace, and the inquisitive boys and women surrounded him as if he were a madman. He thus appeared on the scene while traveling on the earth of his own accord. It appears that upon the inquiry of Maharaj Parikshit, the great sages were not unanimous in their decision as to what was to be done. For spiritual salvation, there were many prescriptions according to the different modes of different persons. But the ultimate aim of life is to attain the highest perfection stage of devotion service to the Lord. As doctors differ, so also sages differ in their different prescriptions. While such things were going on, the great and powerful son of Vyasadeva appeared on the scene. 26. Tam vyashtavarsham sukmarapad karor bahvam sakapolagapram. Charvayata shon nasakutulya karna subhvananam ambus sujata kantham. Charvayata shon nasakutulya karna subhvananam. This son of Vyasadeva was only 16 years old. His legs, hands, thighs, arms, shoulders, forehead, and other parts of his body were all delicately formed. His eyes were beautifully wide, and his nose and eyes were highly raised. He had a very attractive face, and his neck was well formed and beautiful, like a conch shell. Tam ityadinam pratyutita iti tritiya shlokena anvaya. This is the beginning of a sentence that will run for 3 verses. Neck was well formed and beautiful like a conch shell. It had 3 lines, like in a conch shell. A respectable personality is described beginning with the legs, and this honored system is observed here with Shukadeva Goswami. He was only 16 years of age. A person is honored for his achievements and not for advanced age. A person can be older by experience and not by age. Shukadeva Goswami, who is described herein as a son of Vyasadeva, was by his knowledge more experienced than all the sages present there, although he was only 16 years old. 27. Gudhajatram Hritunga Vakshasam Avarkanabhim Balivalgudaram Cha Digambaram Vaktra Vikirnakesham Pralambavahum Swamarottamabham. His collarbone was fleshy, his chest bone his chest broad and thick, his navel deep, and his abdomen beautifully striped. His arms were long, and curly hair was strewn over his beautiful face. He was naked, and the hue of his body reflected that of Lord Krishna. So Amareshu, Shrestha Deveshu, Uttamaha Harihi, Tadvad Abha, Yasyatam. He had the hue of Lord Hari, who is the best amongst the gods. Sri Krishna. The best amongst the gods headed by Brahma. It's a reference to Lord Krishna. Hrid Vibhata Krishnatva Samucchalitaya Tadantya Labdhatat Sarupyam Ityartha. Because Lord Sri Krishna was shining within his heart, the Lord's complexion overflew out of him. And therefore, he appeared to be somewhat resembling Lord Krishna. His bodily features indicate him to be different from common men. All the signs described in connection with the bodily features of Shukadeva Goswami are uncommon symptoms, typical of great personalities according to physiognomical calculations. Physiognomy means it's a study of the external characteristics or the physical characteristics of one's body. There is something called Samudrika Shastra. Samudrika Shastra are scriptures, Vedic scriptures, which talk about different features as part of Jyotisha, different bodily features which indicate that this personality will be of this nature and so on. His bodily hue resembled that of Lord Krishna, who is the supreme among the gods, demigods, and all living beings. There's a question here. Why Shukadeva Goswami traveled all over the earth? He wanted to travel, and he traveled. Yadrichaya. Travel. Darshane Pavitra Goro, Itomara Gun. Here, it's just coming. Probably in this, session or the next session, you'll come across. Parikshit will explain why Shukadeva Goswami traveled. Shyamam Sadapi Vayonga Lakshmiya. Strina Manovyam Ruchirasmitena. Prachuttitaste Munaya Swasanebhyas. Tallakshanagya Apidudha Varchasam. He was blackish and very beautiful due to his youth. Because of the glamour of his body and his attractive smiles, he was pleasing to women. Though he tried to cover his natural glories, the great sages present there were all expert in the art of physiognomy, and so they honored him by rising from their seats. Madhvacharya. Kaishora Yauvanabhyantah Kala Apivya. Apivya Vaya. He reads this as Apivya instead of Apivya. And he says this is the age between Kaishora and Yauvana. Which is first? Between Kaishora and Yauvana, which is first? Bala, Balya, then Pauganda, then Kaishora, and then Yauvana. This is the order, no?
Yes, Prabhu.
So if Bala is before 10. Kaumar. What is that? Bala, Kaumara, Yauvana.
No, Pauganda, Kamari, I think. Then Kaishorya, then Yavana.
So he was in between Kaishora and Yauvana. And so Vishnu Ratoti Thaya Agataya Tasmai Saparyam Shirasajahara Ato Nivritta Hyabuda Striyor Bhakar Mahasane Sopa Vivesha Pujita. Maharaj Parikshit, who is also known as Vishnu Rata, one who is always protected by Vishnu, bowed his head to receive the chief guest, Shukadev Goswami. At that time, all the ignorant women and boys ceased following Srila Shukadev. Receiving respect from all, Shukadev Goswami took his exalted seat. Sapraya. What is all this? With his head, he bowed down, and in that day he surrendered himself completely to Shukadev Goswami. साक्षात् कन्दर्पः अयम् इति स्त्रियः विक्षिप्तः अयम् इति अर्भकाश्च च अबुधाः अमुम् अनुवृत्ता निवृत्ता. The woman had thought, oh, this is directly Kandarpa. And the boys, the small children, they considered that he was just gone case, he was a madman. So in that way, both of them were unintelligent. Both groups were unintelligent, and both of them they left. Munibhyaha bhayena apalayanta. They ran away out of fear when they saw all these sages. Such a pujitaha, munikartrika, मुनिकर्मिका च प्रणति परिष्वंग क्षेम प्रश्नाः पूजाः जाताः यस्य सः. So he was honored. He was honored by the sages, and he had also honored the sages as appropriate. There were obeisances, there was embraces, and there were questions about his welfare. So for those who are superior to him, he would offer obeisances. For those who are inferior, they would offer obeisances, and so on. तेन च सर्वे मुनयः तं प्रणेमुः तेन च आश्लिष्टाः पृष्ठक्षेमाश्च बभूवुः. So all the sages offered him obeisances, and he embraced them, he inquired about them. Sri Narada Parashara Badranadestu Sastram Sagadgadam Ashlishya Shiraha Jighantaha Kshemam Paprachurityartaha. But Sri Narada, Parashara, Badarayana, and so on, with tears in their eyes and with choking words, they embraced him. They smelled his head and they asked about his welfare. Sarchatan Vavande iti bodhyam. You should have understood that he offered obeisances to them. Idrisha san mahati deshika yogya asane tad agyaya sarva abhyarthanaya cha bhovivesha. When this had happened, then on their order, with all of their approval, he sat on the seat which was meant for the teacher, the instructor. On Shukadev Goswami's arrival at the meeting, everyone except Srila Vyasadeva, Narada, and a few others stood up. And Maharaj Parikshit was glad to receive a great devotee of the Lord bow down before him with all the limbs of his body. Shukadev Goswami also exchanged the greetings and reception by embrace, shaking of hands, nodding, and bowing down, especially before his father and Narada Muni. Thus, he was offered the presidential seat at the meeting. When he was so received by the king and sages, the street boys and less intelligent women who followed him were struck with wonder and fear. So they retired from their frivolous activities, and everything was full of gravity and calm. Okay, I'll stop with that. How Shukadev Goswami can act like this, being naked, these advanced devotees? How the sages were hearing from him. He was Avadhuta. He was exalted sage. We already saw that even the Apsaras knew about him. He had no material desires. extraordinary person. He had taken birth just to speak the Bhagavatam. So these great sages, they knew that Shukadeva Goswami is absolutely transcendental. He has no material desires. So therefore, they listened to him. So we have two more sessions. No, actually, we have one more session. Like 73 is meant to be the starting point for second canto. Starting from 21st of November, I need to make some adjustments. I got some idea what to do. Okay. Okay, fine. Panchakalpatarubhyasya Vasanidubhya Vechabadikana Bhavane Vishnu